Thank you for joining today's Community Choice Aggregation CCA information meeting. This is the second in a series of community presentations on this topic. I am Frank Sapone, Town Deputy Supervisor. Welcome. The town believes that CCA has the greatest potential to bring renewable energy into the community in a relatively short period of time without the disruptive infrastructure improvements that might otherwise need to take place, and also to provide electric energy cost savings to the Southampton residents. While the town continues to investigate this potential, we want to continue to inform the community and to address questions regarding this program. To that end, I want to introduce you all to Lynn Arthur, who will be facilitating today's presentation, address questions from those in attendance here in Town Hall, and those participating via Zoom. Lynn will also provide resources for you to learn more about CCA as you conduct your own investigations. Lynn is the founder of Peak Power Long Island, a not-for-profit business providing renewable energy and related outreach and NYSERDA program support on behalf of municipalities on Long Island, including Southampton. Lynn is the CCA program community organizer, working with Jewel Assets, the town's CCA administrator, to help inform and to address community questions about CCA. Lynn, thank you.
Thank you, Frank. So this is a hybrid meeting. After the presentation, we will take questions from those in the room, followed by questions from the chat. Those of you on Zoom can move your cursor to the bottom of the screen, click on chat, and type your questions there. Any questions I cannot answer during today's call, I will seek answers to and post on the town's website by May the 3rd. But I'd like to open by saying that it is no less than remarkable what the town board and town staff has accomplished with the assistance of their CCA administrator, Jewel Community Power, and Assemblyman Fred Thiel. And a big thanks to the Long Island Power Authority for clearing the last obstacle. It's taken us 4 years to arrive at this moment whereby the town of Southampton is considering issuing a competitive bid for electricity through New York State's Community Choice Aggregation program. If the town board decides to proceed, the program, as you will come to understand over the next 20 minutes, is designed to provide eligible residents and small businesses with the opportunity to have an additional choice of renewable energy electricity supply at competitive prices, which is why we decided to brand the program Choice Community Power. Next slide. This is the agenda for today's program. Next slide, please. Instead of referring to the program as Community Choice Aggregation, I'm going to use the abbreviation CCA. CCA is a tool that enables a municipality to aggregate all residents and small businesses together and negotiate a bulk purchase agreement, in this case, for electricity. Now that's a mouthful. So I'm going to step back and walk you through a utility bill so you can see exactly what I'm referring to, so we're all on the same page regarding what we're talking about here. This is a typical bill from PSEG Long Island. In fact, it's page 2. The blue line is pointing to the delivery and system charges. This is what we pay for services they offer, such as billing, customer service, meter reads, responding to outages, administrative costs associated with procuring energy, and debt service. These rates are mandatory and based on how many kilowatt hours the customer consumed during the billing period. The green line is pointing to power supply charges. The bill says the cost of electricity includes the purchase of fuel, oil and gas, used to produce electricity, and electricity purchased directly. The calculation is based on how many kilowatt hours the customer consumed in the billing period times those costs, which vary each month. The power supply charges are a pass-through. I want to emphasize pass-through. LIPA PSEG is not generating your electricity. They purchase it on your behalf and pass that cost through to you. Your cost is that rate. In this example, it's 10.5 cents times whatever you used that month. That's what you see on your bill. Since you don't know what the rate is going to be, it's hard to budget or project in advance how much money you're going to need to set aside to cover that expense. In 2016, New York State came up with a new tool, CCA, to enable people to have access to competitive rates for this one component, power supply, on our electric bill. So that's fundamentally what CCA is. But why? This image represents the 11 zones of electricity across New York State. Southampton is in Zone K. Each zone has a default supplier of electricity and gas. In our case, the default supplier for electricity is the Long Island Power Authority, also known as LIPA. CCA shifts the default supplier from the utility to the local choice, which becomes the new default program. This New York State Energy Purchase Program authorized in 2016 after a successful pilot in Westchester, which, by the way, is still running with about 27 municipalities in it. While CCA allows for more competitive rates, it also enables municipalities to request municipal supply. I think I'm on a different chart, but stay there. What you see on the screen right now, this is a summary of the year that ended in June of 2022. CCAs across New York State saved $28 million for about 250,000 people across 64 municipalities in aggregate. But equally important, and in some people's minds more important, it also generated 1.5 megawatt hours of renewable energy into the New York State grid. Next chart. Okay. While CCA allows for more competitive rates, it also enables municipalities to request renewable supply. CCA enables expanded options, a choice of 100% renewable or as little as no renewable. It also enables individual customers not to have to sign contracts. It has strong consumer protection because the contract is called a tri-party agreement. It's between the municipality, its CCA administrator, Jewel Community Power, and the electricity supplier. Instead of signing their contract, they are signing our contract. We are dictating the terms. And there are no exit fees. When we go out to bid, we're going out with the aggregate usage of the entire town. Think of it as buying in bulk. When you switch supplier, the roles of LIPA and PSEG Long Island stays the same. You still call their helpline, you still get just one bill, and you still need to pay on time. The program is designed to be opt-out. I appreciate this is a new concept for many people, and some people have pretty strong feelings about that, and that's completely fair that they have those feelings. But there is a reason New York State decided to do it like that. The truth is, it's the only way it could work. When you can aggregate the majority of people, then you have a large enough pool of buyers. With that much demand, you're able to get a better pricing versus negotiating as an individual. With that many buyers, we're able to negotiate also for terms we want and get a competitive price, and individuals can still opt out at any time at no charge. Opting out, by the way, is easy, and we'll walk through that in a moment. With opt-out, everyone is enrolled except those on this page who are not automatically enrolled. For example, you may already have a contract with an alternative supplier. That stays intact. Some accounts have a block, and they will not be automatically enrolled. And there are others who are receiving benefits from the HEAP program. That's a federally subsidized program for certain individuals. They are not automatically enrolled. So after a competitive bid has been issued and the town board has agreed to sign an agreement with a supplier who has proposed terms and conditions acceptable to the town board, we will enter into the 30-day opt-out period, meaning individual households or small businesses can opt out before the program launches. Everyone will get a mailer. It will indicate the choices you now have, and it will compare those choices to the rates you're currently getting from the utility. Choices like 100% renewable at this price or 50% renewable at that price, and ways to opt out before the program starts. You will be able to opt out via a postcard you will receive in that mailer, which will tell you you can opt out with a phone call, or go to a website, or just simply sign the postcard and put it in the mail. But even after Choice Community Power program launches, you can still opt out at any time at no charge. Right now, Jewel Community Power, the town's CCA administrator, is talking with suppliers to understand what options are out there and what terms and conditions are possible. For example, a fixed price for 2 years, a variable price that may adjust quarterly. Is there enough renewable supply that can be injected into the Long Island grid to meet Southampton's aggregate demand? These are the discussions that are going on right now. After the competitive bidding process is completed and a power supply agreement is in place, like I said previously, an information packet will be sent to all households and small businesses in the town of Southampton. There will be a robust outreach and education period for 30 days and then an additional 30 days during the initial opt-out period. In summary, I hope you can see how CCA programs encourage the building of more renewable energy projects on Long Island. This will create jobs, economic development, and it will green the Long Island grid. Yay! Notice competitive rates is listed up there as plural. This program will offer choices. A rate for 100% renewable supply, another rate for maybe 50% renewable. In addition to the status quo, each household and small business will have choices for electricity supply at competitive rates. It has strong consumer protection. In addition to the tri-party agreement I mentioned previously, the program is regulated by the Public Service Commission, and due to the 2 bills signed into law by the governor, authored by Assemblyman Thiel, LIPA must comply with any changes the Public Service Commission orders to this program going forward. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, this is why we branded the program Choice Community Power. This program will bring the residents and small businesses in the town of Southampton new choices when it comes to electricity supply. Okay, so we're going to now go through a couple of the FAQs. Next page, Ellen, next page. And then we will take questions from the audience. Let me just read these two pages, and then we'll go to those of you that are here. Does this program replace my utility company? No. You continue to pay your utility bill, and your utility remains responsible for delivery and maintenance of the electrical grid and billing. Does this impact the reliability of my electricity? No. Your utility continues to deliver your electricity and provides the same service whether you participate in the program or not. Will this program save me money? Well, currently electricity supply rates change every month. This program does not guarantee savings. Sometimes the CCA rate is higher, sometimes it's lower, but over time, over the time horizon of the contract, we expect it to be more cost effective. And the last question, what if I want to change my supply choice after the program launches? Well, Once the program launches, you may call the helpline or fill out the enrollment change form on the website to change your supply selection, because you will have options. Or you can opt out or opt back in with no fees or penalties. Next page. Oh, there's one more. Do I have to stay in the program the entire time? No, you can opt out or opt back in at any time with no fees or penalties. Can I participate if I own my own solar panels or if I participate in community solar? Yes. Even if you use solar power, you are still required to have a supplier on your utility bill to cover any electricity not provided by your solar system. What happens when the program ends? When the program ends, your municipality may choose to renew participation in the program. If not, you will automatically switch back to your utility, selecting your supply on your behalf. Okay.
Questioners need to go to the podium.
Yeah. If you would just state your name.
Myron Holtz. I'm a resident of North Sea in the town of Southampton, and I happen to have solar right now, and I do have generate, in the past 2 years, I've generated excess solar, and I get a minimal check from PSEG LIPA. But I have a couple of questions, and the first one is there a difference in the price from renewable and non-renewable? In other words, if somebody submits a bid to the town for 100% renewable or 50% renewable, will there be a difference in the price?
We won't know until we actually get the proposals, but based on what
Experience in Westchester and...
Yeah, our understanding, as explained to us during the March 9th work session by Jewel Community Power, the CCA administrator, is that we are expecting multiple, each supplier will have multiple options, that the town will decide which of the options that they, want to offer.
Right.
So there will be, as I mentioned earlier, there'll probably be 100% renewable at this rate. There'll be maybe a 50% renewable or a 75% renewable, we don't know, at a different rate. And there might be a low-cost option that has no renewable in it. I mean, that's possible, I suppose.
All right, so then will a bid price change if you do not get, or if a lot of people opt out? Because I presume they're bidding on the basis of a certain number of kilowatt hours they're going to be purchasing or producing and selling or making available to us. So if a lot of people opt out, they might have put in a price that reflected a different estimate.
So this program has been available in New York since 2016, and as you saw earlier, there are, I don't know if there are a dozen programs, so there's a lot of historic data. That has never happened. The maximum, they estimate, again, this is what we understand from our CCA administrator. We could see up to a 10% opt-out, but it's not likely. We'll have to see when we get there.
All right.
It's a good question, but a tough one to answer.
All right, last question. Who does PSEG or LIPA buy their energy from now?
You need to ask them.
Oh, we don't know who they buy their energy from? Or you're not allowed to say?
That's that's outside the scope of today.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Dar?
Hi, Dorothy Riley here. I do have a question for you, but first I want to say, Lynn, Arthur, thank you so much for supporting this cause and doing all this work for all these years to bring us to this point, because all of us in the audience knows that this is the most important thing that we can do as a municipality right now. Having studied drawdown solutions, we know that this is one of the most impactful things that we can do is to move to green energy. And I really support you in all that you've done. And my question is, what can all of us do to support this happening as quickly as possible? And all the other people that are out there that aren't here today, but they're watching in, what can we all do to support you the most?
Well, first I'd like to say thank you and point out that this was, I appreciate the personal acknowledgement, but quite honestly, many people in this room, everybody in this room, plus the, under the leadership of Councilman Bouvier and Supervisor Jay Schneiderman
Yes.
and the town board and our CCA administrator, who's been working with us for now going on 5 years to knock down all the obstacles. I mean, there's dozens of people behind us that have gotten us to this point where we are today. But thank you for recognizing that. What can they do? What can you do? Wow.
I mean, maybe you've done everything for us already,
Well,
Lynn,
on this,
and everyone
on
else. but-
CCA, on CCA, I think we could use help spreading the word. We're a small team. I'm happy to talk to you offline afterwards, after today. You lead a very large organization with a significant distribution list and contacts all over the island. Drawdown is very well respected. So your endorsement of this program and working with us to get the word out, I'm happy to, work with you subsequent to today to package something that makes sense. But we need to get this information to people because, not everybody pays attention to a change like this, and this is a significant change. We don't want, the worst thing that can happen is somebody opens up a bill and sees, that they have a new supplier and they don't understand, what is that? We're trying to avoid that situation. That's what the Public Service Commission wants us to do, is to reach as many people as we can.
Yeah. Thank you
So-
very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the questions. Lena?
I'm Lena Tabori. I run a climate change resources website, and I'm also a member of the Energy and Sustainability Committee in East Hampton, which also has CCA enabling legislation, which until now we haven't been able to do much with, as you've also not been able to. LIPA obviously has given us an opportunity at this point, which is fantastic. I would love to know what your timeline is. How quickly do you think the town board is going to approve moving forward? How quickly do you think that Jewel is going to be able to get responses from the RFP that I guess they're sending out? And then how do we get all the 5 towns involved together on this? It seems absurd to me always and again that we're all creating our own roadmaps. I hate the idea that you guys have done all the work here and that we should want to jump on, but I do think we should jump on. So so those are kind of what I'm thinking
All right.
about. But I have to also agree with Dar. I think you've been an incredible spokesperson for this, Lynn, and I certainly sit in a lot of the Green Committee meetings out here, and I observe Bouvier, who I think is amazing, and Dieter, and lots of other people that are involved. So I give credit everywhere, but it is marvelous to watch you in action, I gotta say.
And I have to also I sat on that committee for years until we got so busy here that I just didn't have the time. But we're so like-minded, our 2 towns. We've been pursuing the same goal, more or less. DAR's organization actually spans both towns, which is wonderful. But to answer your question, the timeline, I would refer you to, those of you who are listening, to the March 9th work session where this was put on a chart. Maybe what we'll do is make that publicly available on the town website. But in summary, the expectation is that at the end of this 60-day education and outreach period, which ends about the end of May, the next thing will be for the town board to make the decision to issue the competitive bid for power supply. Jewel will draft the RFP, share it with the town, work with the town attorney. The town, it will be issued by the town. Hopefully, the timeline called for the end of June, possibly. Theoretically, those proposals would be due in 30 days, so we're talking the end of July. A decision would be made very quickly because theoretically, in advance of the RFP being issued, the town board has already concluded what terms and conditions and pricing they want, because that's right in the RFP.
In the RFP, sure.
So they should be able to make a decision relatively quickly. There are some details regarding how contract negotiation occurs. I think I'll jump over that for now. So by the end of July, those proposals come back, and theoretically, a contract is signed or negotiated by the end of August. Then we go into this opt-out period. So there's a 30 or 60-day period in which, before the program technically launches, this mailer goes out. We have another real big push for education, public education. And people have the opportunity to say, I want to opt out before the program even starts. And then the program launches. So we're thinking, you know, by January, maybe December. I mean, if we're lucky, maybe December, but, you know, year-end, holidays,
And it's amazing
elections.
how long everything takes, isn't it?
Well, it's a
So,
process, but
yeah.
it's a process that is very precisely defined by the Department of Public Service in their CCA order. It's available online. So we must follow the process. In fact, like the charts that I used today, those are the same exact charts that are being used by all my counterparts all over New York State that are delivering the same information to their residents.
So I'm thinking letters to the editor,
Yes,
social media. We should probably just talk amongst ourselves at some point about timing for all that.
mm-hmm.
But I'm with Dar. We need to figure out how to help you.
Thank
And,
you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Craig? Yeah, Dieter's next.
Hi, Craig Van Sickle from East Hampton. I'm partners with Dar and co-founder in Drawdown East End, and also on the Energy Sustainability Committee with Lena since 2015 or so. And I also want to both say congratulations, because I know that you've spent so many long years and so much effort, and to you but to all the other collaborators, of course. But this is just fabulous. Super excited. I would say you and the town of Southampton were activists in a way, in terms of not taking no for an answer, and that there was no path forward with LIPA, which was a very difficult barrier to cross. And it took somebody like you guys to say, we want this, and we're going to figure out a way to get it. And for that, you are owed an enormous amount of thanks and congratulations, because that was a big deal. This is a big deal. So I guess I have a couple of questions. One is, how much do you think the average ratepayer may save with a CCA program versus the pass-through that we're now getting from the power purchase that LIPA is doing on our behalf?
Well,
I mean, if you have an estimate.
yeah, I actually gave some thought to this because this question always comes up. Right now, I don't know what the current bill rated.
In your slide, there was a savings of $28 million, and there were 257,000 customers.
Yeah, you
So
just
all
divide
we have
that,
to
yeah.
do is divide.
Yeah.
Actually,
But-
I would come at it a little bit differently, only because everywhere outside of Long Island, there's competition, and their rate structures are different. I would come at it by looking at what we're paying now for power supply, which, by the way, is the highest in the state, right? It's somewhere, I mean, I haven't looked at it recently because I'm net metered, so I don't actually pay, personally, I don't pay for electricity. But let's assume, let's just work with a number of 10.5 cents a kilowatt hour. Let's say that that's what the current rate is. If we were able to get a bid with just a quarter of a penny less, if you remember that Southampton is approximately, and I'm going to be conservative, let's say we have 40,000 households that burn 1,000 kilowatt hours per month at a half a cent difference. I'm sorry, a quarter of a penny, a quarter. That means going from 10.5 cents a kilowatt hour to 10.25 cents a kilowatt hour. I estimated that we would save $1 million in aggregate across those 40,000 households. If we're able to save a half a penny, that goes to $2.4 million. And that's just in the first year. I mean, that's the year amount. The monthly amount would be $100,000 or $200,000.
Ooh, that brings up a point. And so that rate is then bid every year? Is that how the bidding happens?
We won't know until the proposals come back exactly how they come back, because this program has evolved over time. Typically, the contracts have historically been fixed for like 2 years, but there's this new concept of a variable rate where maybe it adjusts every quarter or 6 months. Because a variable rate, when you think about it, takes away some risk on behalf of the supplier, and that enables them to give us a lower price. So we'll have to see. All we can do now is speculate.
So my second question is, I would think of it in terms of a tariff, but I was curious to what degree, if any, there are parameters around how the power that is bid to be supplied can be requested by the administrator. Can there be, like I would say again, tariffs, which is a request for a certain amount of power that might include smaller, like 20 kilowatt or even smaller suppliers that would enable there to be like more distributed energy resources. Another example might be like a bid to request for charging infrastructure that is for fleets that could then become vehicle to grid and act as a grid resource and help to balance the intermittent wind energy that's coming in and become a virtual power plant. Like, how much latitude do we have to request programs like that that could help build the local economy with local resources and provide resilience?
All right. I'm going to peel that back a little bit, because there's a couple answers to that. First of all, tariffs can only be created by the utility. That's my understanding. I'm not an energy consultant. That's a good question for Jewel Community Power, but that's my understanding. So we're not in the business of creating tariffs. The CCA program can accept proposals from, I guess, any and all distributed energy resources. The problem is the risk associated with doing business with a small entity that doesn't have deep pockets and is not necessarily hedged appropriately to serve the needs of the town of Southampton. If you listen to the March 9th work session video, I highly recommend, because they did get into this. Jay, the supervisor, did ask that question indirectly, and there was a good explanation from Jewel regarding the risks associated with doing business with small, for the CCA to do business with the small distributed energy resource. That's DER,
Typically, you have an aggregator between the
Right.
administrator and the small resource, then that aggregator would have to have the financial
Well,
sort of.
however, there is another way. The other way is an existing tariff, which is offered by LIPA, and that's the Community Distributed Generation Tariff. And in fact, that's the project that Deputy Supervisor Zappone and Tom Houghton, who's in the room today, the town engineer, are working on with Kearsarge, who's a developer developing this solar array over here at the North Sea Transfer Station. So there's no reason why those projects can't be funded by a developer or an aggregator, as you state, locally under the existing tariff. There's nothing new needed there. You could do that right now.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it gives me a sense that this is mostly geared towards procurement, but that there is this community distributed generation tariff that does enable these kinds of things, that's really critical, because I think that a lot of times, and I'm not, there are three huge opportunities. There's renewable green power, But there's also building resilience, and there's also local economic benefits. And those other two are frequently not contemplated maybe or as salient as the renewable power part of it. But I don't think that they should be ignored, because why not get as much as possible out of
Well, we're
something
going to
as
need
good
as
this?
much as possible. That's it. We need all of it,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we're clearly in a vulnerable place in many ways, and it always helps to keep money in the community instead of sending it to remote investor-owned utilities. So,
Definitely.
great, thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Dieter?
My name is Dieter von Leesten. I live in the town of Southampton, and I'm co-chair of the Southampton Sustainability Committee. I've been, over all these 4 years, on Lynn's side in many ways to try to get this thing off the hook. While she did the work, I was involved holding her hand. Lynn, with all that, I know most of the background which you have given already, for I was always close to what you were doing. I have a question, and maybe a follow-up question. One is, in the LIPA grid, how much is currently renewable energy?
Right now, according to the New York ISO that I read online, it's 3%. But there's plans, there's plans, significant plans to change that over time with the offshore wind coming online, but right now it's 3%.
Are they actively working on that to increase the?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Now let me give you a follow-up question to that one. Do you think we'll get more than one proposal for the electricity of renewable energy? Is that attractive enough for people in the energy field to offer these things?
Thank you for asking that question. Yes. Again, I'm going to refer back to the March 9th work session, but Joule has been actively talking to suppliers for quite a long time. We went out to the market, they went out to the market on the town's behalf, Frank, about a year ago, and started talking to suppliers. And they have shared with the town board that there are multiple players, and some are large national companies that are very interested. But Long Island is a new market. It's a new market that's rich. Not rich in terms of rich, meaning there's a lot of opportunity because, it's the first time competitively bidding power supply is being done in this zone that has a lot of demand. So there's a lot of interest. So we've been led to believe that there will be multiple responses, and we will have renewable options.
And take a look in the future. What do you think the offshore wind farms will do and contribute to this as a possible supply line?
That's definitely an option, but again, I'm not an energy consultant. I'm not in those dialogues, but good question for Joule. I'll ask them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one more? Do you want to? No? Okay.
Myron Holtz again. I guess the question is, number one, I did not realize, as was brought up in the slide presentation, that as an individual homeowner, I might possibly been able to purchase my energy supply from another company rather than LIPA, because that was the impression I got, that I could reach out to an ESCO, now as an energy service provider, I guess. But I guess as a single homeowner, I would not have enough capacity to even attract anyone who would be interested in providing me with energy, even though they have to go through the LIPA grid. So based upon your explanation, it would appear to be a no-brainer. Why would anybody opt out? Because they can always opt out if they look at the bill and say, gee, I compare last year's bill for the month of January, February, March, and I compare it this year, and I've saved money. So is there any history amongst those who have participated in this CCA as to why people opt out as individual homeowners? Why would they opt out? Well, let me just ask this. Is there any chance that LIPA would treat us as second-class citizens because we're not buying energy through them. We're buying it through somebody else. And therefore, when you call because there's a wire down, they don't respond, or they put you on a waiting list to respond.
Actually, that, we covered that on one of the charts. They should not do that. We don't think they'll do that, and they cannot do that.
Well, cannot and should not and will not does not mean it can't happen.
Well,
But the point is, why would anybody opt out then?
there are people who like to make their own decisions. You know, they don't want government overreach is one possible reason. I will inquire.
Because right now, they have no choice. I didn't realize that I had a choice, that I could call LIPA and say, I'm buying energy from somebody else now.
You know,
Nobody's ever presented that option to me.
it's a tough question to answer because there's no other zone for electricity in New York State that is similar to us. Every other in fact, let me restate my complete answer to this question with this. Of the 11 zones for electricity in New York State, we are the only one that doesn't have competition. So in every other case where these other CCA programs have been launched, they have other options. We have no other option. Here we have one option. It's LIPA.
Right? It's a monopoly.
So when you're opting out, you're just opting back.
Right. You're opting for no choice. You're opting for no choice, at least now.
Yeah.
Well, someone is going to make a choice based upon the bids that are received. Some entity will be, selected to provide the energy. But, okay, then it really makes sense for everybody to opt in until they figure out why they would want to opt out.
Let me, before I go to back to people who want to repeat from the audience, let me just see if there's anyone online. There are people online, but I don't see any questions. I don't know.
They have to raise their hand if they want to speak.
Oh. Okay, there are no questions in the chat, but if there's anyone who wants to raise their hand,
Tell them how to raise their hand. There's an icon.
there's a link at the bottom of your Zoom. If you take your cursor and go to the bottom, there's something that says raise hand. You need to click on that, and then our moderator will bring you into the room, and you can ask your question. Oh, wait, there is a question here from Chuck Schwartz. Hey, Chuck. LIPA is getting ready to launch time-of-use billing. Will a similar option be offered through the CCA? I'm going to answer that, Chuck, by saying, I don't know. We're going to have to wait to see what the proposals are after the RFP is issued, but I will ask that question of Jewel, and if there is an answer, I will post whatever answer they provide on the town website.
Put it in an RFP.
If a person wants to come in and ask a question, they can't deny or decline. They have to agree to come on.
Okay, I hope everybody heard that. If you're on Zoom and you want to ask a question, you will be off, click the raise hand. Charles will send you some kind of a button that you need.
Just don't decline.
Don't decline. There you go. Don't decline. Okay, in the, Dar?
Dorothy Riley, I just wanted to let you know that actually several of us have been purchasing green energy through PSEG for the last 4 or 5 years. We do pay a premium, however. So when the CCA comes along, we'll not only not be paying a premium, we'll actually have a reduced bill. And Cray can give us more information about the details of this one.
Craig Van Sickle. I was just going to say that we had options, but very, very few because of the non-competitive nature out here. But the one that I had been paying a premium to get directly with ESCO stopped serving the area. So
Oh, did they?
now, yeah. So now I'm seeking bulk power possibilities from somebody who's providing energy on a sort of like a community distributed generation. But I don't think there's any ESCOs that serve Long Island, this end of Long Island. I think Up Island a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. Lena?
No one on Zoom.
Hi, it's Lena again. So I just wanted to clarify, the 3% that you mentioned is currently renewables within the electricity that we receive in our homes right now from LIPA. Clean energy and renewable energy are very often used interchangeably, and because I'm such a proponent of electrifying everything, and because it feels it doesn't feel very positive to think that if I electrify, I'm only going to get 3% renewable energy out of my electrification. I just want to point out that right now in New York State, about 40% of the electricity that's delivered is, quote, clean, and that includes nuclear. So, and this, our CCA with Joule does not include nuclear, am I correct? So this would not be clean energy, it would only be renewable energy. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that point. And so, and obviously,
you.
also, I'm sure that everybody knows that New York State is driving towards 70% by 2030, and East Hampton, at least, and Southampton, I'm sure, has similar objectives. We're heading towards 100% in 2030. And then the question is it 100% clean or 100% renewable?
Wow, that's a good question. We'll have to take that up at the next Sustainability Committee meeting. Okay, any last questions? I'm looking online. Charles, anybody with their hand up?
No.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for participating.
Thank you.